think it's supposed to get a little windier.
Is it? Love that for us.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right.
Hi.
Hi. We are back here.
We are. After the holidays. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
It's a little weird, me wishing you a Happy New Year, but that's okay.
Yes, that is true. We were in bed early, and
We were. We're not big New Year. Well, first of all, we're not big going out people late at night. We're like trolls or something.
No, a good party to us is getting a good night's sleep.
It's true. A good party ends at 7.
Yeah.
I think we're here for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going into the, we're going into this new year. Everything is exciting. Seems like interest rates are going down, but are going to go down. People are thinking about getting back into housing.
Yeah.
Buying a house. And I think, part of what we're here to do is kind of just educate everybody on,
Totally.
What home ownership entails.
And for people, like, listen, I'm here. You want to buy or sell, give me a call, right? Mm-hmm. To be clear. But just people that own, right? In general. Mm-hmm. Anybody that, even if you're not ready to buy.
Right.
So it pertains to a lot of our audience.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at some point, everybody is going to, everybody needs a place to live, even if you're renting, to understand,
different things,
the nuances of the housing. So I think our topic today is going to be about home maintenance. And I think a lot of people, and I know we were talking about it before, but it's like, well, why would you not know home maintenance? And the reality is there's a lot of reasons why people have no idea about home maintenance. If you grew up in a, apartment building, or you grew up in the city,
well, even depending on, not even if you didn't, like, there's some people whose structure at home when they were growing up didn't lend to, let me show you this, or let me involve you in this. Right. So even if it wasn't like you lived in a city, it could have been that things just happened and around you, and maybe a person that whatever adult that you grew up with or whatever, who was in charge, didn't even know themselves how to do it. Right. So they could have hired somebody who then, like, you're not gonna, when the plumber is at your house during the school day, you're not home to even know that the plumber even came. Right. So there's that too. I think a lot of people are like, maybe not a lot, that might not be the right word, but there's definitely homeowners now and buyers who are disconnected.
Yeah. And I think it's generational too. I mean, I know when I grew up and when we grew up, there was a TV, but there wasn't computers. So I think,
we're really dating.
I know.
Well, let's be clear. We started with computers.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, it was dial up, you had to go out and do whatever to, wind up the computer.
Oh my gosh. This is, we're at that age that it starts hitting you.
There wasn't cell phones, that was for sure.
Listen, there was an old car phone and my uncle had one. It was so cool.
Well, you guys were rich back then.
Whatever.
We were lucky, if we had 2 tin cans and a string.
Oh, you exaggerate. Anyway, we're digressing already.
Yeah.
Which is
but I mean, nowadays people have a lot of other things to do. You could be you could be at home playing computer games when all this stuff happens, or, be on the internet. And I think when we were younger, it was like, oh, who's outside? What's going on?
Yeah.
Let me go take a look.
You're right.
And
that just the nature of technology. Yeah. And like, we don't even have to see people now. Like, deliveries happen and you don't even have to open the door. Right. So yeah, it's completely
Neither do
different.
You want to open the door anymore either. Yeah.
True. Well, we're digressing again, but it's true. Yeah.
So what is the first maintenance thing do you think that people, don't think of, and what that is important in their home?
Yeah, so I want to make a comment in general before I forget to say like one important point to me from my perspective as a realtor is that basic and like, I hate this word, but normal home maintenance is not going to add value to your home. It's expected that you're doing it. Right? I cannot tell you.
Change the oil in your car.
It's
part of
of owning a home.
New tires, new brakes.
Right.
Same thing for the
home.
Yeah.
So like, I can't tell you how many times I go in, and obviously I could see a lot of it, right? Yeah. And it's all good to know. But let's just I put a new roof on.
Right.
Well,
yeah, it's like new tires on a car.
Like, do you want to and listen, it's great. It's a good selling point, all of that.
New paint, new flooring.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah, like you did it. Like, do you want a sticker? Like, and I understand, but because it's a lot of money and it's an investment, but so anyway, I wanted to say that outright. But one of the things that my answer was going to be is more of the, I would say paint. I would say paint, because I think some of the other things, either you should be doing them on a normal basis, meaning everybody who owns a home, and we'll go through these a little bit, but has like a checklist. Like, you should have like maintenance on your HVAC system, right? Like there's things that are maybe more obvious, and they'll literally break if you don't, you're going to notice things a lot more before paint. And taking that one step further, there's a lot of, and I know you could jump in, there's a lot of home maintenance projects like painting that seem real easy. And
I like the paint thing. Let's stay on the paint really quick, and then I do want to get into like mechanicals and get into like appliances and a lot of the utility stuff. But the paint's very interesting because we don't have, when we added lead-based paint back in the day, okay, it lasted way longer and it was a better product than we have today, but it would really chip and peel and now when we use drywall and latex paint, a lot of times, like, you can go into a house and it hasn't been painted in 25 years and there's nothing peeling off. However, it's dried out, the caulk has dried out, and when you can really tell it needs a paint job is you can look and there's shadows of the framing member, especially in the ceilings you can see. But what has happened, the paint has broken down and it's starting to seep some of maybe the, from the attic. And that's a good telltale sign that it hasn't been painted, along with just the wear and tear of just people living in the home has created, the distress to the paint.
Totally.
But it's 10 or 15 years. You got to paint the whole house. I don't think people do that.
I know they don't, because I'm in a lot of houses. Yeah. And here's the thing. The other thing that I have known, just psychologically, right? And listen, I want to be clear. We're guilty of this. Everybody has a checklist. Everybody has, depending on the size of the household, many adults in our state are working, right? So, many people walk into their home
and they don't notice the stuff.
They're tired.
Yeah, and they don't notice.
I'm tired.
Yeah,
I have to be honest. We've been dealing with some bouts of exhaustion, burnout, a lot of different things.
And when you notice is when you sell the house and you take those photos down, and you can see the imprint of where the photo was on the wall.
And you could also see when people take out a paint can and try to brush stroke and patch, and it looks horrible.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that because it's not the same color, right? If you try to patch a white ceiling,
yeah, there's 100 different,
don't do it.
100 different whites, and each company has a different ceiling paint.
Beyond that, it's worn is my point.
Yeah.
So even if it's an exact match and you only do a little part of it,
that's a good point.
You have a beautiful streak of white, and then the rest is like
you got that old. You got the right paint. Yeah. It's been in the basement, so you're ready to. Oh, it's the right paint. Let me patch. Let me do a quick little paint, and it's the same color and everything, but one has been over time. It's 10 years old, and you try to put the new paint on. Yeah, that's a real good point.
Yeah, and it looks horrible.
Right.
Horrible.
Yeah, just stay away from it. I mean, people really, I think you're right on the paint, but that's a whole other conversation. I mean, that it is maintenance, but don't do your own handyman work. And I will say one thing to this, because I'd like, go get in the comments in this if you want, but the reality is, yes, you can paint well, but you can paint well for about 37 minutes, and that 37 minutes is going to be good, but you don't have the muscles to be able to continue to paint a straight line for 8 to 10 hours, that you need that amount of time to do the work, the whole room. So what ends up happening is like, it comes out good for that one little corner. And then you're so tired because you've walked up and down the ladder 5 times. You just start slapping it on the walls.
And you want it done.
So you only do one coat. Right? Because you're like, well, the color's changed. It looks
all right.
And I can't handle this.
Yeah.
And you walk away and it looks like garbage. That's the reason why you shouldn't paint.
Right.
We're not saying you can't. We're just saying you don't have the
I can cut my hair.
Yeah.
Do I choose to do it?
Right.
Heck no.
Right.
There's professions for a reason, right? So just remember that if there is a question, things are much harder than what they look.
Right.
And listen, I think it's great, people learning how to do maintenance and understanding their systems. Mm-hmm. It's important.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
However, know your strengths.
Right.
Again, professions for a reason. And that can detract.
Mm.
So you go on a home maintenance checklist, guess what it looks like if people don't know how to hang a door or fix a door or fix a screen, or it looks horrible.
Right.
Horrible. And now all of a sudden you might be taking money away if you're not, and I use painting and that might be a bad example. If you don't maintain your home, it will take money away.
Right. And here's a good point with that, right? And talking
from
about
the value, from the value of your home. I want to, meaning when we put it on the market, we're not going to be able to compare apple to apple anymore because there's a ton of deferred maintenance.
Right.
So sorry to cut you off, but
So I just wanted to go with the maintenance side of things on your HVAC system because, again, I know how to change the filters, right?
Yeah.
And that's, or you might not even know it has a filter.
Yeah.
But if you have a forced hot air system, there is a series of filters. Usually there's one big one. There could be a couple. That need to be replaced every couple months.
Yeah.
And you need to put good filters in.
Mm-hmm.
And a perfect, you spend getting a contract with a company. They'll come in at the set point and they'll get it done, right? And they're not going to miss that time because they get paid, rightly so. They're going to do it right. They're going to see if there's anything else, any issues. I mean, they're trained to upsell, which is fine. Listen, everybody's in business. But you say, well, I'm not going to spend the $200 to get my filters changed and do a checkup and do a little cleaning, make sure. So you don't. And then you go a year and a half without replacing the filters. And what ends up happening is that filter gets all gummed up because you got pets. And really, they need to be, you have pets, you should be replacing those filters every 3 months or every month or whatever, depending on how bad they shed and how many pets you have. So you don't replace that filter. What ends up happening is that blower has to blow so much harder to get the air throughout your house. And maybe your heating and cooling goes down a bit, like it doesn't work, isn't as good as it used to be, but your mechanicals are running constantly trying to do that.
Yep.
And now you're spending $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 replacing that blower 5 years ahead of time because it's had to work twice as hard, and you could have avoided that for a couple $100 or, doing it yourself if you're disciplined enough.
So I think this is, you brought up two things that triggered in my mind. One is routine, regular maintenance could save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, not in the whole life, right? Because you do have to, depending on how long you're living in a home, you're going to have to replace things, like that's normal. Live 30 years in a home, you need stuff.
Right.
But to your point, you're going to have to pay for it earlier.
Yeah.
And you could avoid that.
Right.
Never mind the electric, the heating, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever
that blower is going to run
right, and it's calling more, right?
And it's going to take more electricity.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one point. I have another point. I lost my thought a little bit in there, but yeah.
Water softeners. This is a good one. I like this topic because it's you have hard water and you don't keep that water softener going.
Yeah.
It starts to break down your fixtures. It starts to break down your dishwasher
and your water heater.
All of your shower head, and
all the plumbing,
the plumbing to it,
right? Because when you have hard water, it's the minerals, right?
Yeah,
that kind of like
you have copper piping. All of a sudden you're getting or galvanized, and now you're getting all these pinholes, and you're getting leaks everywhere.
Yeah.
When a water softener or a treatment system, and it could be a couple $1,000 to get it going, but it's going to save everything from that down the road. And if you already have installed, you have to make sure you are feeding it the right salt. You know, we have one at home, right? And it's just like it's easy to kind of forget.
Oh, 100%.
And because you fill it up and it fills up with 8 bags or something, you're good for 6 months.
And I want to be very clear, even what we're talking about, knowing what we know. I had this discussion. So we do have a treatment system, and the little notification goes off about getting it serviced.
Yeah.
Right? I don't necessarily have this perception, but my question to you is like, is this a set it and forget it thing? Is this a use, whatever. I ended up calling, and I'm joking with our trusted, obviously, one of our referrals for the company to service it. And I'm joking with the gentleman who comes, and I'm like, is this a real thing? Like, is this real? Listen. And he explained this to me, showed it to me.
Yeah.
There's a little part, I don't know what the technical name of the part is, but he said, essentially, if this gets worn, your system is not operational. Right. And he said the same thing, like it could get gummed up, it could wear down, it's a whole thing.
Right.
My second point that I had forgotten, and you triggered it, thank you, is there's a general mistrust of the profession. And I think that is one of the root causes of people thinking, either not doing it. Obviously, there's a mistrust issue, but there's also a financial issue.
Right.
Okay? They're two separate. But they're actually, sometimes there is somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. Because what you see all the time on social media groups is, I want a cheap plumber. Mm-hmm. I need a reliable
and
reasonable cheap.
Yeah. Won't break the bank.
That won't break the bank.
Yeah.
Guess what, guys? The horror stories, for the most part, of the professions coming into your home and taking your money, running, whatever. There's
all the time.
It is real.
Yeah.
And there's horror stories.
And so here's a good point. I don't want to go too far off on this one, but I think, this is a whole podcast in itself.
Yes.
If you hire a bigger company that is sending out a serviceman out there to do it, he's not going to pocket that extra $500 that he just charged you. A guy in a truck will, not saying that they're bad either, but I'm saying you have a lesser of a chance of you're going to pay more for a bigger company, but you're never going to get ripped off. because there's no incentive for that person to just be like, yeah, it's an extra $800, because there's no way for them, if the company's set up properly, there's no way to pocket that $800.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but my point is that people have to get over this general mistrust. And like there's this level of fear that people have to face and understand that just because it happened to one person, and again, I'm not saying one person, it's happened to a lot of people, but that is not a reason to allow your home to deteriorate. Right? What main thing that I struggle with is that, it's the most expensive asset people buy in their whole life, right? Most people. Some people have super nice cars and jets and all that fun stuff. Most people, their biggest investment. Why? Why are you allowing that biggest investment that you have worked hard for and are still working hard for in your mortgage, and all day, every day you're going to work or doing what you're doing? Why are you allowing that investment to deteriorate, right? Treat it as a business. When you go to sell it, like I said, most situations, unless there's something nuts, general maintenance is not going to help in terms of adding value. It will detract big time. And these maintenance things like the water softener system, the treatment system, that's there for a reason. It's there for just like your filter on your refrigerator, right? Or any other filter.
I think because I always like to compare it to other industries. It's kind of like when you bring your car in to trade it in or to get something or bring it back from the lease. And it's like, okay, here's the book value. Right? So that's meaning the car is in good shape.
Right.
And then they go around and they're like, okay, it needs tires. There's a scratch. You got a broken windshield. You've got this. You've got that.
Chip,
and now all of a sudden, well, we can give you like $4 for the car. And you're like, what? I thought it was worth like $4,000. You're like, no, it's, so that's a good.
It's a great example. It's a great example. And again, to your point, if you don't have the know-how or the discipline,
hire it. Yeah. I'd like one more in the way when you were talking about the part in the water softener and being preemptive to it, because this is a really big one where it costs. It's getting that maintenance to your boiler. It's getting that maintenance package so that they can avoid, because what happens is you don't do that. And then it's Christmas Eve. It's 0 degrees
whatever
out.
Holiday.
It's 0 degrees
and it's
out,
always
and it's snowing
at night.
Yeah.
Or on the weekend when everything is double.
There's no heat.
Triple. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you've just spent the same amount to put in a whole new system just to get somebody out there to fix it. Instead of that, few $100 maintenance would have avoided it, because they'd be like, hey, this part's kind of, is going to go in the next couple months.
Yeah.
Let's swap it out right now and be done with it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think this is definitely a 2-part. Because I think the next part of our conversation should be, I think we should focus on the inside and then do outside. Maybe in another podcast. Maybe next week we could do outside.
Yeah.
Because there's way too much. We can go on forever with that. But yeah, I think generally remembering when you own something, something of so much value, that you really need to take care of it. And that takes, listen, I'm the first, right? We're the first. Cleaning, the cooking, what are we having for dinner? The famous question, like, what are we making? And, and you just want to, especially this time of year in Connecticut, let's be clear. Like, we're all cold. We're all tired. We all need a vitamin D. So, there is a level of energy that you need to put in to make sure that things are working properly, and also that you're just generally keeping up with it.
Yeah. Go online, get a checklist, do an interior checklist of what you need to keep. I mean, I think you're right. We can do next week, do an entire exterior. There's so much stuff on exteriors.
We don't even want to get started on that. That's too much. But we haven't even really truthfully talked about the interior as well. Like, there's a filter in most people's dishwashers.
Yes,
did you know that?
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to.
It's disgusting.
And it's relatively new. So, like, your parents aren't going to tell you that there's a dishwasher filter because it's been the last few years.
Yeah.
That and honestly, again, here we go back again. If you don't clean the filter, does it still work? Yes, but it works extra hard to get the water out of, and then all of a sudden you're not just replacing the filter, you're replacing the pump.
Yeah.
And then when you try to replace the pump, the repairman's like $400, and you might as well put a new dishwasher. Yeah.
But like, I mean, dishes at our house, right? Like, and I'm
making sure there's no food on it or anything.
There's no food. Like, we're not.
If you're dumping dirty dishes straight in the dishwasher, check your filter. It's going to be full.
Because ours was not full. I don't want it, but it was still neted to get
and we
kind
of pre-wash.
Yeah.
So we've got 5 minutes.
I can't believe it because there's so much.
It's so quick. But I want to do on a more personal note. I just want to throw it out there.
Oh boy. We're going rogue.
We're going rogue, but I'm like super proud of you. I know it's kind of a craze out there, but fasting has been very helpful for health. And you kind of like just went 30 minutes rocking and rolling on when was the last time you ate? Like 3 days ago.
I don't want to necessarily. Yeah, it is a doctor approved thing, and I don't want to get into it too much just because the glorification of eating disorders, and I don't want to trigger anybody. It's something my doctor asked me to, but I appreciate the compliment. It's
rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So with that saying, we will try to bring in a little bit of personal so everybody gets to know kind of what we're doing. Even though Sarah's gonna be terrified.
I never know where you're going with things, and there's obviously we live together, we work together, we love each other, we're a partnership, and clearly it works for us. It's pretty interesting because many people have asked me. I don't know if people comment to you, but a lot of people are like, "How does that really work?"
Yeah,
and it does work for us.
It does. We've actually have some pretty cool plans in the future of kind of doing some more stuff. So I'm excited for that. That will be, in the next couple of weeks we'll start talking about that. But I think that's probably good for interior maintenance.
I'm glad that we're not. I'm more prepared for this going rogue part.
So. Oh, we're gonna go rogue. So we're gonna talk about the meaning of life next time.
All right,
and all of that good stuff.
We'll have a brief discussion before we go rogue next time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe.
Yeah.
Support us.
Yeah. And to those out there, our family, our friends, very thankful, for everybody's support. And if you could go on our socials, and
for all you haters.
That's
we love
not
you.
True.
We only send love.
Yeah. All right. Well, be well.
All right. Thanks, guys.